But there are unlisted expenditures in that New York State budget, including capital grants, to the tune of $1 billion, above and beyond the $200 million in the member items. So, we've got to make sure that the process overall is transparent.
Right, okay.
And there is pork packed away in that budget with no name listed next to it of why it was placed in that budget.
Well, see, that's why you're there.
It
That's
really
why
should
you
be
know.
held accountable.
I mean, these are the only things that I've known for years of trying to get these things established. And the other one was the Inspector General for Education.
Yep.
That'd be putting more to it, but then it'd be somebody overseeing it. But listen, there's...
And that Inspector General of Education, that's in my school tax reform bill.
Well, I know.
That was picked up by the Republican conference, and any tax measure that comes before the New York State Assembly, that will be placed as a hostile amendment onto any tax reform package we've seen. So that's actually an example where your idea, a local idea, has made its way into the public dialogue through my piece of legislation, and it's actually gained steam and bipartisan support. So you should, you should be happy about that.
Well, that's all I do. I plant the seed.
Right.
It takes a lot of years, but then I see it happen. So I don't say credit for it,
Right.
but I say, and this is like so many years ago, Senator Pataki was sitting at the same table I was, and they were talking about, even before the STAR program. I says, listen, why don't you start giving the schools all the money? Take 25%, give it back to the people. Right? And this is what I'm saying. Sit at the same table. The next thing I know, they come out with the STAR program.
Right.
So I says, listen, I feel good about it. Look at I plant the seeds, and things happen. So that's what we have to do. But we have to fight together. I know it's depressing sometimes, especially as a politician, if you're a minority group, and you're still fighting, you're still raising your hand. But you can't give up.
Right.
I haven't given up. It gets you down sometimes.
Yeah.
But just like a show like today should reinvent some of the energy in you, because you, just what I said, keeping the ball rolling. Now, there's not too many politicians that we could say that is behind the taxpayer.
Right.
Okay? And you should just keep thinking of that. Every time you get down, look, you're doing a lot for the taxpayer, okay? And you keep working on it. Now, you have
to fight, Ed.
And, right. But how about this Tea Party? I want to get this on.
April 15th.
April 15th. Where?
It's gonna be at the historic courthouse, 6 p.m. April 15th, and we're going to do a Tea Party MTA Tax Revolt coming together, because
that's in Carmel.
In Carmel, but it's going to be activists, anti-tax folks, school tax reform people, Tea Party activists, patriots all throughout the Hudson Valley.
All right, good. So I'll focus that, because I wanted to have another Taxpayer Action Day on the 18th, but now we got one closed
together.
That's it. We'll put everything together. I'll get people up there, and just hope the weather is good.
And we need you to give a rousing speech.
Oh, I'll give a rousing speech.
Make sure Greg Kane doesn't bring his dog.
He's got 4 of them. He should bring 4 of them, That's it.
Now, does Greg Kane talk, or is he just addressing?
It's quiet today. My question is with the MTA tax. Someone needs to explain to me or to the public why we have this MTA tax. Now, they say they're short on funds, but what has changed that the MTA has lost all this money?
Well, what has changed is that, if you look at the MTA thoroughly, and this goes back to construction of their headquarters down on Broadway. And this is an authority that is riddled with corruption, mob activity. I'm not making this stuff up.
I know.
It's well known. I think people they have projects that have overrun to the tune of hundreds of millions of dollars.
They put $1 million.
That bailout was absolutely hideous, and it's placed on the backs of the 12 counties in the MTA region. And by the way, we get a whopper of a bill, but we only have a quarter of a pounder of a vote. We're a quarter vote, right? So we're not even represented properly.
Responsibly,
And that payroll tax, it doesn't only affect small businesses, which would be bad enough, but you're talking about nonprofits, assisted living centers, Catholic schools, yeshivas, centers that deal with children with special needs, the Girl Scouts. There are organizations, nonprofits that have never paid taxes that now are going to be paying this MTA payroll tax.
Did they put a time limit on it?
No, it's of course. Why would you sunset it? God, that would be common sense.
Yeah, right.
No, not at all.
I know.
Yeah,
It's
just
an
like
insult.
just like the tolls and on the bridges and.
Right, just keep going and
Yeah.
going and going and going. Hey, Greg, I got a question for you. Now, I don't know if you remember this.
Which Greg?
Greg number one right here, Greg Ball.
Okay.
Now, $5,000 from your member money to the Yorktown School District.
This was not an approved question.
I know, but this is a great question because I asked this it's already done. Everything was done.
Okay.
Everything was done.
Okay.
The school was just supposed to get
Now
the money.
explain
make
why
up.
that was. Why did we do this?
Okay.
For the unfunded mandate to help.
Yeah, it was an
offset.
unfunded mandate. This is for calculators. We use
Right.
it for the calculators. They're going to
There's a
spend
there's a
$70,000.
requirement that
There's
the
New York
school
State-
purchases calculators
Right,
for their
up to
students.
$50,000 to $70,000 a year, every year.
Right.
Okay? This is nuts.
So you
So-
asked,
so we
you
asked-
asked that I secure a grant to try to
Right.
offset some of that unfunded mandate, which
Right,
is what I
and
did.
that was 2 years ago, which you
Yes.
did, okay?
Did the check bounce?
You didn't get they didn't get the
They
check.
didn't get it yet?
His answer
It
was,
may have made its way into my vacation fund.
Oh,
Well,
nice.
I've got to check on it.
but this is Tom Cole. I've been asking him this steadily for 2 years. He says, well, the last time I called his office was about 6 months ago. So I said, did you get the check or not? He said, no, he didn't get the check. So I'm asking you today,
Okay.
if that check is there,
Yeah.
I want you to write it out to the school district. I'm going to take it.
You're gonna bring it?
And I'll bring it right to him.
Okay,
Check that out because,
I wish that worked. I
I-
can't personally write the check.
all right, with that check, because it's supposed to be already done.
The paperwork needs to be filled out by the school.
By the school district, right.
So let's make sure that they actually filled out the paperwork, and we'll touch base, and we'll.
Okay,
find-
great. Because, just like you, I try to do something, this $5,000 was a small amount of money.
Yeah.
But again, it was to alleviate the taxpayers a little bit.
Yep.
But when they don't do it, and you have the opportunity to save money,
Yeah.
that's ridiculous, so. But it's again, I
Well,
have
you know,
a school battle,
when
so.
I got to tell you, I mean, it has been actually very interesting to try to secure some of these grants, because I've secured about $500,000 now. For a minority member in the state assembly, it's not a bad amount. We've secured about $500,000 in grants, and you try to find organizations like that, right, where there's an unfunded mandate, or, we've done some very good things, but there's a paperwork process involved, and sometimes, and because it's New York State, it's not an easy paperwork process. And there's actually a lot of money that's out there in the state budget of unprocessed grants that we probably could pull back in, especially during these times, and allocate to lower the tax level and the overall budget.
Well, all I could do is ask what we did. We got the two people together, your people in your office, the school, they talked.
Yeah.
They did what they had to do, but the end result is
Well, let's
not
follow up.
good. So I'm going to follow up. Because, again, from Vinnie Liebell, I don't know if you know Vinnie Liebell.
Who's that?
Yeah, so we got $5,000 from him for a grant for the museum.
That he
And it-
personally gave to you?
through the member money,
Oh,
right? We
okay.
went up there for lighting, we got it. Of course, then, that was Nick DiTomaso and myself went up there. Again, right after we got the grant, their museum, volunteers at the museum board were demolished. So, this is what I'm telling you. It's
Yeah.
just, we can go back and forth on all these different things that we get down a little bit.
Yeah.
But look, so we got the $5,000.
Yep.
Somebody else took the credit for it, okay? So what? So what? But we did it.
right.
So and that's where you're at. I give you a lot of credit for doing a lot of stuff, and I'm right behind you. So there's only a few politicians, and with Greg also, I believe when I got to know him, knew when he was a young guy, went through the campaign, and he said the same exact feeling. He wants to help the people. Okay, what else are you going to do?
Right.
You got all these people that are...
You need more good people to get involved in
Right.
politics.
Right.
And, it's not necessarily a welcoming field or a welcoming experience. You have to be a little off to actually get into politics, and because your family bears the brunt. When you take the hits in the press, or when you're out late at night, or when you're going to event to event to event, that's your family that
Right,
has to
and then you have to
sacrifice.
put out some money
Yeah.
to run.
Yeah, this
Not mind the
is-
taxpayers' money, you have to put out
And
your own
the entire
return.
system, especially at the federal level, but even at the state level, has been set up to keep blue-collar people out of politics. I mean, it's a very expensive pursuit. And if you're not a multimillionaire, I'm a blue-collar guy, I live in a very small cabin. I promised to be a full-time assemblyman and make it my full-time job, which I did. But because of that, I have to fundraise all the time, just to, because my donors, it's $50, $100 at a time, and I have a large database of donors, but that's tough to constantly have to fundraise.